Thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Spinning Platters Presents How Did I Get Here? Is it tuning in? I'm not really sure, actually. I mean, you've kind of gone to whatever podcast app you're using and clicked on the play button. So thanks for scrolling in. All right, I'm going to stick with that. Thanks for scrolling in to the latest edition of Spinning Platters Presents How Did I Get Here? Why am I so desperately trying to be funny? Well, today's guest is one of the three co founders of San Francisco Sketch Fest, the most impressively booked comedy festival, I think, known to mankind. Uh, I didn't tell him that because I didn't want to flatter too much. But David Owen is my guest today. Uh, Wonderful, wonderful human. I know I say that about everybody that comes on the show, but by default, if you came to come on the show, you're a wonderful human because you said yes to me, and I appreciate you. Uh, but yeah, we talked about the first show he did as a fifth grader, and that would be the first show he produced as a fifth grader. We talked about his time as a theater major at SF State. We discussed the difference between Mary Ward and Mary Park Hall at San Francisco State University, uh, and lots of other things that uh, probably doesn't sound interesting based on how I'm describing it, but really was interesting. We also talked about what it's like to run a music festival and watch your music festival grow into something massive. Not music festival, comedy festival. Uh, and you know what? I'm not going to re record that and get it right. There's lots of music at SF Sketchfest, actually. And we talk about that too. Uh, yeah, so I'm excited for you to listen to this conversation, gaffs and all, in my intro. Uh, Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to leave a review because reviews improve SEO. And if you don't know what SEO means, it's search engine optimization. Therefore, it just makes it easier for people to find it. And crack open a mango white claw and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Michelle Varay.
And I'm Kimberly Trung, and we are the host of Crush Fictionally, a podcast all about your favorite fictional characters from movies, TV shows, and more.
Each episode, we pick a theme, curate a list of characters that we love, why we love them, and some fun facts about the people who created them.
So if you've ever felt a true connection with a fictional character,
tune in to Crush Fictionally on Campfire Media,
or wherever you find your podcast.
My guest today is David Owen, one of the three founders of Sketchfest. Hey, David, how are you doing?
I'm good, Dakin. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So I kick all of these off with the same really annoying question that everybody hates. And I'm going to throw it your way, and if you just throw off your headphones and run out, I totally understand.
Okay, I'm game.
All right. What would you say is the event that made you decide that putting on events is what you want to do?
The one event, let's see, in the fourth grade, actually, I don't know, the fourth grade, I organized my entire class to put on a production of the Blues Brothers.
Wow.
So I sat at home with a VHS copy of the Blues Brothers, and I hand wrote a script, stopping and starting the video, and then I took it to class, and I cast the entire class got a role, and I cast myself as Elwood, the Dan Aykroyd part, and another friend as the Belushi part, and then I got a tape recorder and I started recording the songs directly from the TV So like Aretha Franklin singing Respect, and then I cast a friend in my class to play that part, and she would lip sync it, and we would practice every day before school. And we never actually performed it. We just rehearsed it a bunch. But that's where I had my first taste of like wanting to put on a show and wanting to organize it, and you know, it's where I first realized, oh, I want to be on stage, or I want to be part of performing or directing or producing or doing something involving performing. And that sort of was the first seed that led me on the path that to being, to majoring in theater and then starting a festival and presenting and doing events.
Yeah,
That's
so,
probably the one. That's probably the initial seed.
right, so I need to know, did you actually get the scene plotted where they were at the biker bar and bottles started getting pelted at the band?
I don't think we got that far. I remember we did like the first, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes of the film. I don't think we'd gotten as far as that scene. So we did I distinctly remember rehearsing the Aretha Franklin, the diner scene. Um, and, but yeah, I don't remember doing that the biker bar scene yet.
I'm realizing that this could actually be fun if you were to attempt to stage middle schoolers do Blues Brothers again.
I think it could be, if you have the right kids, I think it could be really funny.
Yeah, it'd be sort of, it would almost feel like Bugsy Malone, but in the right way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it could be, mildly inappropriate at times, but kids, I think, like that.
And I have that Tuvlo song, stay high whenever I think about you, or I get high whenever that's on a Kids Bop album. So,
Hmm.
you know,
You never
it,
know.
yeah, I think I kind of think that we're pretty open to what kids can do now. No, that's wrong. But yeah, I also remember Fall Out Boy suing Kids Bop because their song was too inappropriate for kids to sing.
Oh wow, news to me.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the last music nerd bomb that I throw out for no good reason on this thing.
I like it. Keep it coming.
Okay, so your first production never got off the ground, sadly, but still, that's mind blowing that you even started something like that in the fifth grade. What was the first thing that you actually like got to fruition? The first time you like?
Well, there were talent shows in elementary school that I participated in, including doing some sketches, some comedy sketches, and it's like kids would get together and they would do like a Saturday Night Live sketch, or they would lip sync to some like a Clash song, or but I think it was like in high school. I started playing. I kind of moved away from theater and got into music, and I was playing in a jazz band. And there was a coffee shop we would hang out in downtown San Diego, and I wanted, even at that age, I wanted to kind of create my own opportunities, and so I sort of did a 1 day celebration of the arts at this coffee shop. I think I was a senior in high school, and I booked like my friend who had a little like acoustic guitar duo, and then some friends that did a circus act, and then my jazz band headlined, and we printed up flyers and went all around the school and packed the place, and that was like the first like actual thing that I produced as a producer and a performer, and yeah, so that was I think the start of me thinking you can't. This is like a recurring theme for me. Is you can't always wait for other people to give you permission to do what you want to do. So I just started making my own opportunities and trying to create a stage, a place for where I could perform, where my friends could perform.
Yeah, and you essentially had, so before you graduated from high school, you were staging a variety show that was
Yeah, it's a variety show. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is kind of like what Sketchfest evolved into being. Is all three of those things would weirdly make sense happening at Sketchfest.
Yeah, yes. Eventually, yes. Although it started as just sketch comedy, um, it has evolved into being a festival that just celebrates all the different things that we like, not just sketch or stand up or improv comedy, but also music and films and TV shows, and not always necessarily straight up comedy. Sometimes, it's just something that we like or something that's influenced us. And so we've tried over the years to have the festival be just a representation of stuff that we think is cool and fun and interesting, and that we hope an audience will find interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, history has shown that you did pretty well with that. So let's jump to the how Sketchfest came to be. When did you meet Janet and Owen, or Janet and Cole?
And Cole,
Yeah.
Cole and I, yeah, I met Cole first. He was on the same floor in the dorms at San Francisco State. We were both freshmen at SF State, and
Mary Ward or Mary Park?
we were in Mary Park, fifth floor. Okay. And were you there too? Did you?
I did go to SF State, and I started at Mary Ward, and I was jealous of the people in Mary Park because Mary Park Hall had the laundry that you could pay with an ATM card.
Oh, I didn't realize there were different laundry payment methods in the two buildings. But yeah, so I didn't. I had a few friends, but on our floor it was all jocks. It was all like everybody on our floor was on the swim team, and I met these two nerds who were like me. This guy Cole and his roommate Jeremiah. They were two kids from Davis, and they were into movies and comedy and the kind of and music, and so I just sort of gravitated towards them, and Cole and I became friends, and then we were both working at the same video store, and then we became roommates, and we moved out of the dorms, and we were sharing an apartment with other friends, and we were roommates for many years and worked at this video store, Movie Magic in Park Merced, for many years. And then 5 years later, 1999, we went to see Stop Making Sense at the Castro Theater. That was like the big anniversary screening that the film festival did, and all of Talking Heads and Jonathan Demme were there. And Cole and I bought tickets, and we went, and our friend Alexander was there, and he said, "Oh, this is my girlfriend Janet Varney," and then we met Janet that night at the Castro. And then Alexander, who was the friend, he was starting maybe about 6 months later. He was starting a sketch comedy group that he said, I want to start a sketch comedy group, and he asked Janet to be in it, and me and a few other friends, and a guy named Gabe Diani. And Gabe and I said, yeah, we'll do it, but can we bring our friend Cole? And he's all, sure. So there were about 8 of us, and we would meet once a week, and we would write sketches and bring them in and read them. And one by one, people kind of dropped out of the group until it was just 4 of us left. It was Janet, Cole, Gabriel Diani, and me. And we picked the name Totally False People and started performing sketches at like coffee shops in San Francisco. We would go down to a comedy club called Brewster T. Feathers in Sunnyvale, and we would just do these little sets of 2 or 3 sketches as part of a variety show, and we just got a taste for it, and then that led to starting the festival. So that's the example of a long-winded answer to a question. Where did you meet them? So yeah, I started answering the next 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah, so Totally False People, which I swear I saw you guys in college, and I don't I know it happened, and it's weird that I don't but I also wasn't big on chatting with performers when I was in college. Like, I usually would sneak into a show and then run out because I didn't know what to say.
Right.
But yeah, it's which is kind of funny. But that feels like a gap. So you were doing this. What made you think, hey, we should what made you think to do the first Sketch Fest? Like, what was the thing that was like, we could do this? Yeah, like, and actually, what was kind of some of the lineup of the first Sketch Fest? I'm kind of curious.
So yeah, there was a little bit of, so this is the year 2000 was when we started um, doing sketches in, like, there was a place called the Mock Cafe, which is part of the Marsh Theater on Valencia Street. And, and we were aware that there were other sketch comedy groups that were doing little shows there, sometimes like a little variety show, or they would do their own half hour, 45-minute show. And so these groups were the Fresh Robots, which included Al Madrigal and W. Kamau Bell at the time, Colin Mahan and Mike Spiegelman, and Casper Hauser, the Meehan Brothers, and Please Leave the Bronx, and a group called White Noise Radio Theater. So there were these 5 groups that we started watching and hanging out with, and occasionally we would be on the same bill with them. And there would be shows at the Mock. There would be Rooster T. Feathers. I think there was one at the Punchline, a couple other venues. And there was so it felt like there was a little bit of a community, a little scene happening with sketch comedy. And we just felt like we were writing all the time. We were meeting once a week. We were putting together enough material to put on full shows, but we just felt like there wasn't really a place to do it. There were only a couple of venues that were actually booking that kind of thing, and there was no money. It was just like you'd get up and you'd do your set. And so I think the first thing we did was Totally False People. We put on our own show, like a 2-weekend run at a place. There was like an illegal space in the Soma district called the oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but my friends all lived in this warehouse space at 58 Tahama, and they were kind of doing illegal shows on the other side of the building on Howard Street, and I can't remember the name of the place, but
I remember this because they would do like noise shows there
they
too
would do noise
sometimes.
shows. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
mostly noise shows, and occasionally there would be avant-garde theater or sketch comedy.
Mm.
So I'm just totally blanking on the name, but so we did a couple of weekends there and sold tickets real cheap, and made a couple of bucks, and we noticed our friends were doing these things too. They would do a show and it'd be like $5, $10, and so we called a meeting of the 6 groups, and we proposed this idea of renting a theater. Like, we would basically, all of us pool our money, rent a theater. And so we found the Shelton Theater downtown, and you can't rent it for 1 or 2 weeks. You had to rent it for a month. So we said, okay, so let's just call it Sketchfest. There was already a Sketchfest in Seattle, and so we're like, okay, so there's something happening in Seattle where sketch comedy groups are getting together and doing a festival. And so, but it never even occurred to us that we would do a second year. It was just like, let's all get together and put on this show. And everybody agreed to do it. And we kind of put a schedule together where you'd get like a co-headline of 2 of the groups, or all 6 groups would perform on certain nights. And we did 24 shows, so 4 weeks, 6 shows a week. And every show sold out. We had a cover story in the Chronicle, and somehow it just word of mouth, and it was one venue, 80 seats, but it just went really well, and to the point where Janet and Cole and I ended up being the ones that were kind of putting the pieces together, and we thought, well, we could do this again. Well, maybe we should do this again, and that led to year 2.
Yeah. So did any of you like call the Chronicle to like, or was there anybody that acted as publicist, or did they just show?
No, we had the Meehan brothers knew a woman who had done some publicity for them. The Meehan brothers were like really part of the comedy scene, and they said, oh yeah, let's hire our friend Renee Gonzalez, and she does PR for such and such, and just like freelance. And so we asked her, and she I don't know if it was her or the Meehan brothers or somebody was able to get word to the Chronicle, and they sent James Sullivan, who came out and on the he didn't even review it. He came and did a preview and interviewed us and did photos in the theater. And the article hit like the day before we opened, and then we were off and running. And then the Meehan brothers, they invited Robin Williams to come. So Robin came into the very first festival, and then that was written up in like Leah Garchik's column in the Chronicle. And so we just felt like we were kind of off and running from the start. And we were very lucky that, that first year it was like, wow, this we just sort of had this idea and did it, and people seemed to like it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of had just the sense of just like the DIY punk spaces. Like you were, yeah, essentially like just you took a scene and invaded a space.
Yeah, we kind of, and we didn't. There was no blueprint for it. We just we said, let's just do it. Let's figure it out as we go. And that's sort of been our MO for 19 years, is figuring it out as we go. And, and, we just got lucky that first year, and we've always, just been grateful to all of those initial performers, and we've invited them to come back over the years. And some of them have, been doing the festival for years and years and years. And they're like, it's like a second family.
Yeah. Has Casper Hauser played all of them, or am I?
Not every year. There've been a few years they've taken off, and they haven't been like, they kind of moved into writing books. And so they've released a few like humor books and really, really funny things. And, we've just invited them to kind of get the band back together a few times. So the last, this year and the year before, I think they kind of reunited and kind of do a mix of classic and new material just to sort of celebrate doing it. It's like, I don't think they perform very often anymore, but they're just four of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And the fact that they're not as famous and as successful as Kids in the Hall or The State or Mr. Show is a crime, because they're just some of the most clever and funny and smart comedy writers and performers I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, it's funny how like sketch and punk sort of come together or share similar ways of working. I had the same conversation with the owner of the Ivy Room last week about American Steel just kind of casually getting back together on occasion to play the Ivy Room and playing new and old stuff, and it's really lovely and fun. And then they don't do anything else again for like years.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different. Every group is different, and some, have to kind of go off and lead their own lives. And I mean, the thing about Casper Hauser is, even back then, even when we started the festival, they all had their own careers. One was a doctor, one was a lawyer, one was a teacher, and they all had like active careers, and now they all have families and kids, and they still have these successful careers. And but they just happen to be four extremely funny guys, and anytime we can beg them to come back, we're lucky that they say yes.
Yeah, well, it's also, I mean, sketch comedy is kind of, it doesn't get the same amount of respect as a lot of other like performance fields, and so I guess it's hard to make a living out of it if you don't like become Saturday Night Live or this, yeah, or join the State, or I mean, it's been a long time since there's been a major like just this is a sketch troupe that's grown to be famous as a sketch group.
You're right. It's so rare. And I mean, there's certain, like, I thought Key and Peele was one of the best sketch duos to come around in years, and I hope they continued. I mean, they're both very successful directors and actors and producers, but I hope that they continue to also be a sketch duo. Because a lot of people, they're in a sketch group or an improv group, but basically it's a means to an end. They're trying to get writing gigs on television or acting gigs on film or television, and and same with a lot of stand-ups. Like, some people just do stand-up until they get famous as an actor or get a job as a writer or something like that. But then the ones that really love it continue to do it. And I think, yeah, any like the Kids in the Hall obviously all have their own careers outside of the Kids in the Hall, but when they get back together and do that, there's something really special. But yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah, it's magic. So jumping back to doing something else instead of the sketch comedy group that you were in, which I guess you branched out just like everyone else you've described. Uh, at so Sketchfest remained just kind of local underground sketch for a couple of years, if I remember right. When did you start branching outside of the Friends group? When?
Well, yeah, it was actually our second year. So the first year was all local, all one venue, and all, very, DIY. And the second year, we thought, let's kind of try and build on that success. But the second year was one of our toughest years because we bit off more than we could chew. We weren't quite ready to grow as much as we did. So that's the first year we were in the Eureka Theater, which is now called the Gateway Theater, which is about 200 seats down in the financial district. And we rented that theater, and I think at that point we moved it from a 4 to a 3-week festival. But that was the year where we were able to book Fred Willard and the Upright Citizens Brigade and the Sklar Brothers. And so those were like our big 3 headliners that second year. And that was the first year we had groups coming from all over the country. So we had groups would apply, and we had groups from Texas and Washington State and New York. And it was we were still learning as we went, but there were so many things that we didn't know. We didn't know how to do a bigger festival yet. And so it was a big learning experience that year of not trying to bite off more than you can chew before you're ready to do that. But it was also a groundbreaking year for us because we were able to get some of our comedy heroes to start coming, and by getting Fred Willard and UCB that second year, that kind of gave us those Fred and UCB kind of gave us some street cred a little bit with the comedy community. And that made it a slightly easier in year 3 to say, oh, well, last year Fred Willard did it. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds legit to me. I know Fred Willard. And that's it's sort of progressed each year from there.
Yeah, so Fred Willard in 2002, I mean, Fred Willard's been a household name for decades, and that was, well into his time as an established actor. How it was a DIY festival. How did he feel about slumming it in the DIY world? Was there anything that you had to do special for him that you wouldn't have thought to need to do for most of your performers?
Well, yeah. So I don't know. We were aware that Fred had a sketch comedy, like a troupe of players, like an actors that he knew in Los Angeles that were all kind of had comedy and improv backgrounds. And it was called Fred Willard's Hollywood Players. And they would play they would mostly play a venue called the IO West, Improv Olympic West in Hollywood. And so we were aware of that. And, that's a tiny venue. That's just it's like a little black box theater. And we were hanging out at the Old Cobb's Comedy Club in the Cannery with the owner, Tom Sawyer, and Tom said, oh, my friend Bill knows Fred Willard. And he was sort of helping advise us that year, Tom Sawyer was. And so I said, oh, well, do you think your friend would call Fred and say there's this festival and it's really cool, I give it my stamp of approval. And so he did. And so that sort of planted the seed with Fred. And then we wrote a letter and sent it off. And then we actually went to LA to one of his shows at the IO West. And I went in and kind of made my way backstage after the show and sort of cornered him and talked to him a little bit. I mean, it was just like, when I think back at it, I thought, how annoying was I? This stupid kid coming backstage and saying, "Will you come to do our festival in San Francisco?" And Fred is such, I mean, he loves performing. He loved, we miss him so much. He just passed away this year, but he just loved performing, and he loved being part of that group and being on stage. And I think, he really respected that DIY, like, let's put on a show. And somehow he decided to take a chance on us, and we had to learn how to, okay, so we're going to pick you up at the airport. Is this hotel room okay? Like, and we were learning as we went, like, because we had never bought a flight for someone or booked a hotel room for someone. And like, in those early years, we would pick them up at the airport ourselves and like make sure they were okay. And so we just learned by doing it that, okay, this is how you treat someone who's kind of more of a famous person, and hope, and mostly they're fine with it, and if they're not, you find out pretty quickly if they're not okay with everything.
Yeah. So at this point, are you still working a day job?
Yes. So yeah, I was, I think, still working at the video store, because I remember at a certain point, I was managing. There were two video stores. They opened up a second one, and I was managing, and I was writing sketches when there were no customers and when I didn't have work to do. I would sit there and write sketches and plan for the festival. And so yeah, I mean, I think we're still working at that video store for at least the first two or maybe 3 years of the festival.
Yeah. At what point did you sit and realize this is something I could make a living out of?
It was a while. The thing that I started to realize is I was learning things about events, about producing events that I could apply elsewhere. So in 2003, which would have been our second or third year, I saw a job posting for the Mill Valley Film Festival. And so I applied to be hospitality coordinator, and I used my Sketchfest experience to kind of, on my resume, and I got that job. So, and then that led to many years of working other festivals when I wasn't doing Sketchfest. And it got to the point where I didn't have to do the video store anymore. Also, video stores were starting to disappear and go out of business at that time. So I kind of developed a little bit of a circuit. It got to the point where I would do the San Francisco International Film Festival in the spring, and then I would do the Stanford Jazz Festival in the summer, the Mill Valley Film Festival in the fall, and then Sketchfest in the winter. And that was my little festival circuit for a few years.
Yeah. So you kind of tackled all of the significant ones during that time, save for Noise Pop. Yeah.
Yeah, Noise Pop was right on our heels. By the time Noise Pop, which I love, and I love those guys, they're in February and we're in January. And so by the time February rolls around, I'm so exhausted. Like I don't think I could have worked for them even if I had had the opportunity. But I loved going to it when I could.
Yeah, it's your break, because then you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Do you ever get that thing where you're at another festival where you suddenly find yourself like needing to work or like sizing it up and going, oh wait, somebody needs to do this, let me go do that, and realizing you can't?
Pretty much every time I go to an event or a festival, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I would have done that differently, or oh, that's a good idea. I want to steal that idea for how we present our stuff. So I think you're constantly learning and observing, but no, I know when to turn it off and just try and enjoy myself and say, this is not my problem. This is someone else's problem to deal with.
Yeah. So you've booked your own festival for a very long time. At some point, did you reach out to Outside Lands, or did Outside Lands reach out to you folks to start curating their comedy stage? So
this is another thing I kind of fell into, and it started not with Outside Lands but with Bonnaroo. So I'm a friend of mine. Speaking of Noise Pop, is Jordan Curlin, one of the founders of Noise Pop. I had lunch with Jordan, and we were just talking about stuff. And he said, "Oh, you should meet my friend Rick Farman, who's from Superfly, and he's one of the founders of Bonnaroo, and he lives in the Bay Area." So I had coffee with Rick, and he said, "Oh, I like what you're doing." And I said, "I like what you're doing." It was just sort of like getting to know someone else in the business. And he said, "Oh, Bonnaroo is looking for a cinema curator." And they said, we're okay on comedy. We have a comedy curator, but we have a cinema tent. And we're trying to do some interesting things and book some films and guests and musical things with film. And so I ended up getting that gig, and did that for about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. But that led to, because Superfly also co-produces Outside Lands, that led to me kind of knowing more of the people that are involved in that. And that same year that I did Bonnaroo, they asked Sketchfest, not just me, but Sketchfest came in to consult and help co-curate the Barbary tent at Outside Lands. So so that led to that. And then we also got involved with helping do some programming for the Cluster Fest. And so that became sort of a new circuit for me. I kind of moved away from the film festivals and the jazz festival and started, then my own personal circuit was Sketchfest, and, Bonnaroo, then Outside Lands, and back to Sketchfest.
Yeah. So with Sketchfest, you have kind of free reign. It's the three of you are the people that sort of censor each other. Did you ever have an idea, something you really wanted to do on the Barbary tent that Outside Lands folks are just, no, we just can't take that?
I can't think of anything specific. I mean, it's a team of people. It's mostly working with Ray Livingston at Another Planet. She's a great comedy fan and curator, and we kind of all just bring ideas to the table, and we sort of see what everyone gets excited about, and then what the main heads of the festival at Superfly and Another Planet get excited about, and we kind of, everyone sort of makes their arguments. But no, I can't think of a thing where we really wanted to do it and they just said no. The nice thing about that is we've been able to kind of keep it really eclectic, which we like. And also it's been an opportunity to work with comedians that we've never had at Sketchfest. So it's an opportunity to try some different things. And, but no, it's been a very easygoing relationship as far as how that thing gets programmed.
Yeah, I love it when you dip into the music pool to curate the stage. Like, there's a time where Town Owen told a story as part of a Sketchfest thing, and I thought, wow, this woman is so ridiculously funny. I didn't realize how hysterical she was.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things that happens at these kinds of events is you get to see people outside of their usual comfort zone, and you get to see how funny someone like Tao is, or how musically talented someone like Paul F. Tompkins is, like what a great singer he is, because he's doing, so you get to see people do things that you don't normally get to see them do. Like, I remember Amy Mann participating in a live game show and how funny she was. So yeah, that's the thing that gets me the most excited now, is what can we do that's very different and just super eclectic, and not just the show you're going to see somewhere else, but a show that maybe will never happen again, but it's just very unique to that moment in time.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the comedian, but there was one year where the stage was in the worst possible place, the Barbary tent, because it was basically like right across from the main stage.
I remember that year, yeah.
Yeah, and a comedian kept kind of like getting distracted from their set, and then just started making fun of whoever was singing on the main stage that year. And yeah, that the story is not good because I can't remember either the comedian or the person singing. It was the performer that played before Elton John.
Oh, okay.
but yeah, and it was yeah. Do you have any say in where the Barbary tent goes, or how it finally got in a place where it's big enough to house everybody and it's not getting bleed out from other stages?
No, we have zero say in any location of the tent or any like. I mean, they'll take they'll take advice on logistics or and we kind of work closely to make sure that we're minimizing the sound bleed between the music stages and the comedy, but it's always going to be some crossover. And but I agree that year that was a tough location, and but but no, that's the nice thing for us about that gig, and is we're only responsible for curating some of the talent and helping produce that show. Unlike Sketchfest, where we have to worry about everything, like all the logistics, every single department at Outside Lands, and when I was with Bonnaroo, and I just had to focus on my own stuff that I was doing, which was a little bit liberating, to just be able to focus on the show.
Yeah, have you gotten to the point with Sketchfest where you can farm out some of this stuff, like who booking the venues or?
Well, yeah, I mean, over the years, when we first started it, we did everything ourselves, and then we would bring on, tech people or a publicist, but then gradually as it's grown, there's just no way we could do all that ourselves, and nor did we want to. So we were able to bring in a larger seasonal staff, a team of people. And now over the past few years, we have a pretty good working team that comes back and, that takes care of, dealing with the venues and with the tech and with the staff and with, travel and hotel and all that stuff and marketing and PR. We're still, very, very involved with all of it, but we're able to now take a step back because we've been lucky enough to have really great people on the team that know what they're doing.
Yeah. So, what's the number of the largest number of performers you've had and the largest number of venues you've had? Just stats.
Roughly, if there have been over the last couple of years, maybe not last year, but the year before that, when you add up every performer, including sometimes that means like a sketch group that has 12 people in it.
Mm.
There have been years where there have been close to 1,000 performers. And that's over about 260 shows. And some of those, like I said, some of those groups are very large. I think the most number of venues we've had in a year is around 25, but I think that's gone down. We're trying to kind of focus it more. And I think it's closer to 18, 20 the last couple of years. But yeah, we're constantly trying to figure out, is this feeling a little bloated? And sometimes I think we do the last couple of years, we're kind of thinking, how can we have a better focus and maybe have fewer shows? But we're trying to find that balance. So,
yeah. So now let's take us into 2020, the worst year to happen to anybody ever, save for the Dark Ages. How far along were you into getting Clusterfest booked, getting Outside Lands booked before it became clear that those weren't happening?
I can't really speak to those other festivals. We hadn't really done anything on any of that yet, and nor would we have, because we usually start later in the year. But we, when things kind of shut down, for me, the date was March 11th, because that's the date my daughter's school closed, and we were like, okay, we're going into quarantine, and just it was. But yeah, we were at that point. I was still thinking, oh, there's no way this is still going to be going on in January. There's just no way. This is going to be 2 weeks, a month. But then it became, it's become steadily more and more clear throughout the spring, summer, and now the fall that it's going to be a while. So, but yeah, no, at that point, we were still basically recovering from the last festival, which ended at the end of January. We were still just sort of in that kind of not relax, just sort of that dead time of wrapping up the last festival and taking a little bit of a break before we gear back up. So
I think,
we were very lucky to be able to get to finish our festival, because if COVID had, if things had shut down in January, we would have been very, very in trouble. So we were lucky, knock on wood, we were lucky to get through that. And now we're just holding on until we can come back.
yeah, I remember going to, so it's you folks and Noise Popper, the two that I consider to be the festivals that got in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at Habibi at Bottom of the Hill, and like everyone there was like, should we be here? Like, is this right? Is this right? And yeah, and even like the Balanced Breakfast Conference, which had a packed piano fight. Uh, I took a walk in the middle of it and met up with a friend who needed help buying a cell phone. Long story. And the guy behind the counter at the cell phone store said, yeah, we're not really getting shipments right now because of all that's happening in China. Then I thought, wait a sec.
Mm-hmm.
Should I be in an overly full piano fight right now?
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of got skittish. It made me feel a little skittish.
Yes. It was a weird time. I wasn't able to go to Noise Pop this year, but I kept thinking, I wonder if they're going to make it to the end of the festival. And I was like, I sure hope they do. And then, and I remember that same feeling of, should I be here? The last concert I went to was Patti Smith at the Fillmore in March.
Oh yeah, that
And
poster's right above me.
is that? I was wondering if that was the poster. I didn't get the poster because I left before the encore because I didn't want to get caught in the rush of people leaving the venue, because
Mhm.
my wife and I were standing in the back of the Fillmore as far away from everybody as possible. And there were a few other people that were standing around us I could tell just by the look on their faces, they were also wondering, should I be here? And is this safe? And like, we had our hand sanitizer. Nobody was wearing masks, because at that point, nobody was wearing masks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 confirmed cases in San Francisco. And I remember just thinking, this feels weird. And 2 days later, everything kind of shut down. Yeah, that was a weird time.
Yeah, it's the last film or poster of 2020 is
Yep.
the Patti Smith poster, as I was informed by their art director. Uh, so yeah, so she's very proud of it because it's one of those, by I forget the artist's name, but the person who does collages of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so you had you gotten anywhere into booking Sketchfest 2020 when you decided this shouldn't happen?
Not at all, actually. We usually don't, like, we start the idea, the brainstorming session usually starts to happen around maybe June, like May or June.
Mhm.
Um, and then we start planting seeds throughout the summer with a lot of the returning performers. And that's also when people start sending us videos to watch, or, links to videos. And we just, as time went on, we just thought, we can't really commit to doing it yet. We can't, every passing week it seemed to get worse, and we seemed to, we were just thinking, we can't. What we didn't want to do is announce the January festival, start having people send us videos, start booking it, and then have to pull back and cancel it. We said we don't want to get to that point. So let's wait. Let's start looking at our options. So one of the options is, let's just do the festival and hope that we can do it. The other is, let's postpone it. And the other was, let's go virtual. Let's do a hybrid. So we were kind of like looking at all of these different options. And, by the time I think August rolled around, we were pretty sure we knew. We were just like figuring out, what's the next step? Like, what's the path forward? How do we announce this? And what's our game plan? And so right now the game plan is, we're postponing our 20th festival to a time when we could safely do it live in person. We decided we didn't want to do an all virtual 20th festival. Because for us, Sketchfest is about being in the same room and having an audience and connecting with people. And it's really hard to recreate that online on a Zoom screen. That said, we are producing some Zoom stuff. We are planning some virtual stuff, but we're not planning a virtual festival per se. We're just planning special events. The first of which is this Plan 9 from Outer Space sort of live read on Zoom with miniature special effects and all-star cast and music. And so we're kind of trying to kind of elevate the live read thing that's been happening on Zoom with new elements like miniatures and, different effects and stuff, and just sort of playing with it and trying to make it different and fun and not run of the mill. And so that's the first one out of the gate. And then we're working on plans for some other things.
Yeah. So is the plan to do the Zoom thing like once a month, or like do you have do you have a plan of like the rhythm that you want to get these out?
TBD, really, to be honest. We're still kind of mapping that out. We know we want to have something in January, but not a festival. So there will be like a special event, virtual event in January to kind of celebrate the occasion of January and when our 20th year normally would be. So we're still putting that together, what that is. We don't really know exactly what shape it will take, but it's going to be something that we hope is special and unique and involves a lot of the performers that we've been working with over the years. And then beyond that, maybe it could be more things like the Plan 9 live reads, but it could also take different styles or different formats. And eventually we would like to, get back to doing live stuff, even if that's gradual. So maybe if by next spring or next summer, we could do an outdoor thing with social distancing and masks, like that's on the table. That's something we would consider doing. Or if things improve to the point where some of the venues in San Francisco do reopen and have social distancing and masks, or, some sort of safety plan for an in-person indoor thing, we'll just have to wait and see. We just have to kind of see what, how this thing plays out and then respond accordingly and to put on whatever shows we can put on. But in the meantime, we'll be working on the virtual special events and just trying to get through it and wait out until there's, a vaccine and a safe way for people to congregate.
Yeah. Did you folks have anything to do with the Red Room Orchestra show at the chapel?
We did not. No. Yeah. So that's a separate from Sketchfest. I'm very involved with that group, with, producing shows here. And so Mark Capel runs the group. He's the band leader. And he told me, yeah, we have this, they've asked us to participate in this thing. And what do you think? And at that point in time, I said, personally, I'm not sure that I would want to go and be outside. But that's just me. Everyone has their own comfort level right now with where they want to be and how close they want to be to other people. And, making sure that you personally feel safe and the people around you are being safe and it sounds like it went really well. Like according to Mark and the band, like everybody was spaced out. Everyone had masks. The audience was spaced out and sold out, and it made a lot of people really happy that they were able to actually hear live music. And in San Francisco, I think it was the first actual live concert thing to happen since the shutdown. And I think that's sort of a little bit of a roadmap for how to kind of gradually get back to being able to do things. And they weren't allowed to have singers. They weren't allowed to have horn players. There were a lot of rules that the city had, because anyone who's singing or blowing a horn is, spitting their germs out. So they had everyone, it was just, guitar, keyboard, bass, drums, and everyone with a mask and all instrumental. But the short answer is no. I was not really involved in that show, but I was aware of it, and I told Mark, go for it, do what you want to do, and that was that.
Yeah. So I always ask people about their pivot during COVID, which you kind of already gave me. There's one really interesting pivot that Sketchfest did, which was you you finally opened up the archive, so for people that missed shows in past years can actually like get to experience the things that they couldn't get out to. Uh, is that something that you think might continue on after we're able to reconvene together in person?
Yes, possibly. The that pivot happened in the spring because it became pretty clear to us around maybe April that we weren't going to be doing anything this summer, and so beyond, like, apart from Outside Lands and other like side gigs, we were planning to do a summer social, which is like we don't do it every year, but every few years we do like a weekend in August where we rent the Castro and we do a couple, like 2 or 3, 4 shows. And so we were already planning on doing that in August again, and had some ideas and some things in the works and some dates held at venues. And then we thought we had to call that off. So everything had been working towards, we just knew at that point wasn't going to happen. So that's when we thought about the archive. And the thing about the archive is it was never really meant to be public. I mean, it was sort of like we were like, wow, we don't want to lose this. We want to make sure we have a document of some of these events that were happening. So, in the first few years, it was like we would only tape one show, like our biggest show. Like, we have a tribute to Paul Rubens. We got to have a video of that. So we would, hire a videographer friend to come and shoot that. And over the years, it's been about 20 to 30 shows we shoot, and it's mostly just one camera in the back of the room, and they all mostly have direct sound from the soundboards. They sound good, they look pretty good, but we never really had a grand design for them. We just knew that we wanted them just in case, or just to have. And so yeah, we thought, okay, this is one thing that we have that we can maybe do something with. And so we started this whole process of getting permission from all the performers that are in those videos, because there was no like formal like agreement with them about, I mean, they all knew that it was an archival video, but it was archival, which means you can't make it public. So we had to go back to everybody and say, hey, COVID hit, we can't do anything this summer, so will you let us do this? And here's what we want to do, and here's how we want to do it. And almost everyone, like 99%, said yes. And we started this, putting out 1 or 2 shows a week. And we have more to put out, which we'll probably do next year. But I could maybe see it continuing, I think. And also COVID, the whole COVID thing is going to dictate how that plays out as well. Because there may be more and more people who want to experience things from home in the future. And so that could mean not just showing an archival video, but moving into a model where we do live streaming of live shows. So that's something that we've been talking about as well, is when we are able to go back to doing a live performance, maybe there's an opportunity to have it be accessible to people all over the world who can just tune in and watch a live stream of the show, which is not something we've done a little bit of that, but not something we've done a lot of. But I think, especially if the COVID reopening is very gradual and a lot of people are not comfortable going back out and sitting in an audience, that we could have a hybrid thing where we have a socially distanced audience and we have cameras in the room, and then you can also watch it from home. So that's part of sort of the long-term planning that we're thinking about.
Yeah, especially since with Sketchfest, everything you do only happens then and there. Like,
pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think some of these archival videos are really great and fun to watch, and I think people have been enjoying them. I know I've enjoyed rewatching some of them, but it's just it's just not the same. And the same with the Zoom shows. I've seen some that have been really great and moving and funny and interesting, but it's just not the same as being in that room with those people. So I think everyone, you just sort of do the best you can to put the best and most entertaining and special show on that you can, and I think most people understand this doesn't really take the place of that live experience, but right now it's the best we got. And there's only so much Netflix or, movies you want to watch. And it's also nice to support the performers and the organizations that you like, because you want them to come back and you want them to be able to get through this. So that's part of the, that's part of what we're saying to our audience is like, yes, this help us get through this by renting these videos or watching this live stream. And because we are planning to come back, but like for many, many people, it's a tough time for us and for everyone.
Yeah. All right. So we're already at over an hour.
Okay.
I have I have one last question for you.
Okay.
Uh, would fifth grade David Owen, if you had a chance to like talk to him, what would you say?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Um, I don't know. I was the thing about my whole career and my life so far is been I've been kind of just figuring it out as I go, and I don't think I would have wanted to do it another way. I mean, there's certainly there's mistakes we've made or I've made where I wish we could have done it a different way, but also by not knowing what we're doing and figuring it out as we go, we've stumbled into lucky happy accidents and stumbled into a way of booking a festival and meeting people and connecting with people. And by doing it ourselves and kind of having, you mentioned like a punk rock mentality about it, like just screw the rules. We're just going to do it our way. So I'd probably tell the fifth grade kid to just follow your heart, because, and also, um, you know, you can't do it alone. I couldn't have done any of this without Janet and Cole and without all of the performers and the staff and the audience and, just all the different people that have helped kind of build this thing. We didn't do this on our own and I didn't do it on my own. So, you keep the people that you like close to you I met Cole as a 18-year-old freshman and we changed each other's lives. And then we met Janet 5 years later and she changed our lives and we changed her life. And that's what I would say to that kid is like, these friends are going to be very important to you. The ones that have similar interests and you all kind of have that same passion. And so so it's like teamwork. Like the lesson for me was like being part of a team, being positive and following your heart and doing what you want to do and not waiting for permission from the people who make the rules about everything. And just sort of figuring it out. If you make a mistake, fix it, keep moving forward.
But that's lovely. All right. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks. I hope I wasn't too long-winded and
No, this was excellent. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for indulging this my nerdy quarantine project of talking to people I know and love that I don't get to see and learning about them.
Well, thanks for having me, and it was, as always, great to see you.
I'd like to thank David Owen once again for taking the time out to chat with me. Uh, Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this podcast. I know that I actually, honestly, don't make it to the end of these very often. Uh, and I don't mean once I'm listening, I mean once that I'm doing. If you couldn't tell, I usually just fade out somewhere and they just talk. No, that's not true. Why am I saying this? I don't know why I'm saying this. Uh, it's California and smoky, and my brain's fried. So that's my excuse. Tune in next week. We've got Russell Gatewood of the world famous Rick and Rush show on the show next. Another great conversation. Go into a lot about Bay Area music history, and all in all, it was another good one. I keep having good conversations, and you keep tuning into them. So I'm grateful for that. Please tell your friends that these are great conversations, and they should listen as well. All right, see you next week.